Um, okay, I'm really excited to be here for
Thank you.
yeah, welcome, Claudia. Did I say that right?
Yeah,
Claudia.
perfect. Thank
Perfect.
you.
I'm like, say Claudia, not Claudia, say Claudia, not Claudia. So we are back for another episode of How She Owns It. And for anybody that doesn't know who I am, first of all, just a really quick background. My name's Julie Agnew. I am a self-worth and wealth coach. And I really believe that the amount of money that we can make is linked to our worth and how much we value ourselves. They're intrinsically linked because I've experienced that myself. I've seen it in other women. And I feel like there aren't enough women owning who they are and owning their worth. And so I really wanted to create this series to share conversations with women that maybe weren't owning it, that now are owning it, incredible women with incredible stories that might help you to start owning your worth and showing up in the world as who you want to be. So tonight I'm with Claudia, and Claudia is a certified life and self love coach, and you've got an incredible backstory. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I'm not going to dismiss it because that's part of my learning.
yeah, absolutely. So we might as well just jump straight in if that's
Mhm.
okay with you.
Absolutely.
And I would love it if you would kind of give an intro to who you are, share a little bit about you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm Claudia from Claudia Sabina Wellness. I'm a life and self-love coaching to support mums transitions from being fed up, uncertain, overwhelmed, and feeling constant mum guilt to living a calm, self-assured, nurtured, balanced, and joy-filled life. Um, so a bit about me. I if you can hear the baby screaming in the background, my mum is with her. She's not on her own.
Just make sure.
But yeah, just get that in there just in case you're like, whoa. But I yeah, I spent a long time not having any self-worth. And I didn't realize it. I if I look back now, you see it in a completely different um perspective. But at the time,
Yeah.
I felt like I didn't fit in from being a kid. Felt really awkward. I'm half German, and I was always wearing, German clothes, which weren't necessarily the most fashionable. And yeah, and I was, part time. I wanted to be a tomboy. The part time, I was like, oh yeah, I'll wear a pretty dress. And yeah, I just float around in my own world, and I escaped into books, and I was happiest reading.
Yeah.
Um, and then as a teenager, I was like very developed. Like my periods at 10, and I just felt really uncomfortable and yeah, just awkward and self-conscious. So I kind of carried that into teenage. And then when I started having relationships, I took my self-worth from them, which is completely incorrect because self-worth is what's intrinsic to you. It's your own opinion, not someone else's. So yeah, I just didn't really have any respect for myself. And it meant that I picked people who didn't love me properly. And they would make me feel even worse. And then just a constant cycle. And then I met my ex-husband. And I thought, great, I'm going to get married, going to have children. And I didn't take a moment to think, oh, this relationship isn't great. Um, and I moved away from all of my family and friends. And I basically moved in with him. And he was controlling of my time, my finances. He belittled my opinions. And so I just didn't even know who I was anymore. And I didn't have any friends nearby. And so I was just, yeah, it just kind of, I was like, oh, but I need to get married and have children. And, and then he finally proposed. And I was like, yeah, cool. This is amazing. I finally had that validity. I'm marriage material. And then I was like, plowed myself into planning the wedding. And I was like, well, it needs to be quick because he might change his mind. It's always a good start, isn't it? And he didn't want anything to do with the plans. He's like, just plan it. But I want you to invite all my families. It's a massive wedding, but don't spend any money. So yeah, I was super stressed out. And then after we got married, I was like, I really want children now. Like, like I've been saying for the last 8 years. And he's like, once you've lost some weight. And it was always, yeah, like, once you've done this, once you've done that. And so eventually I kind of met him halfway. I was like, well, I've lost half the weight. Can we start now? Because it might take a while. And we got pregnant. And then things got even worse. So I don't know the stats. I don't know if you're aware of the statistics, but a third of domestic violence situations actually start in pregnancy.
Wow, I didn't know. Yeah.
I was shocked when I was told that. And basically, it's something about them wanting to be controlling, obviously the change, the financial pressures, and it basically becomes a hothouse. So everything that was happening before was ramped up. And when I said I wanted to put aside some money for the baby, that's when he got quite aggressive. And I, at that point, was really low. And I contemplated ending my life. But I didn't want to for the baby. So I decided that I would stay alive until I had the baby, and then I would make a plan and I would go away and kill myself.
Yeah.
And I did confess this to the midwife, and she referred me to the mental health services. My ex didn't want me to go on antidepressants because it might hurt the baby.
Yeah.
But I got this fantastic counsellor. It was absolutely amazing. And I think the low point for me was he asked me to mark out, he split the week into hours, so 168 hours in the week. And he's like, write down what you've done each hour, just summary. So if it's like watching TV for 3 hours, then you just put TV for 3 hours. Yeah. And I came back with my week mapped out, and he's like, right, let's circle all the things that give you joy. I couldn't find anything. Oh. Because everything we watched on TV was what he wanted to watch. He mocked me if I read my trashy romance novels. So I stopped reading. And I couldn't pick anything. And so he helped me actually start my self-love journey. He referred me to the domestic abuse team. I still wasn't ready to accept it, but I was making strides. And then my beautiful son was born. And I didn't want to leave him. I was like, no, I'm not giving you up.
Yeah.
I'm also not raising a son to see his mum being treated like this. And so I worked with the domestic abuse team, and they supported me and gave me the strength. And it took me a few tries, but eventually I left when Harry was 3 months old. And everyone was like, it's really hard being a single mum. It's like, it's really hard being in an abusive relationship. Yeah. And from that point, I just grew. I think, yeah, I had the support of the domestic abuse team. They helped me rebuild. I started divorce proceedings. That gave me some power because I'm a solicitor in my corner, and just like, no, this is what we're going to tolerate. And I also had, just lots of like self-development stuff. So I was looking at how to recover from an abusive relationship and ways to build in self-care, being a single mum. Yeah. And I just kind of started, and then I started to look at my feelings and actually start naming those emotions and acknowledging what had happened rather than just brushing it off and going, no, I'm fine. People have had it worse. And then I went to counselling, and then I found coaching.
Yeah.
And the lady whose course I did, but you did as well, she says, your first client is yourself. You practice everything on yourself. And it's amazing. It really is, because you get these tools and you just build yourself up. And that was not a brief intro. But anyway, I basically want to help women, especially mums, because I feel we're so shy about saying, actually, it's really, really, really hard. Yeah. And we're exhausted. And then if you want to just take a shower in peace, you feel guilty. And people are like, but why don't you want to spend time with your babies? You wanted them. It's like, yes, I wanted them, but I also would like to be clean. And I spend the majority of my day covered in food because my little girl is learning to walk and she's climbing up me covered in food. So yeah, but no, so I just want to bring a supportive community of mums together to nurture them and help them have time for themselves so they can be the best mum possible. Yeah.
I love that. So looking back, just something that you touched on there was that you said that sort of you didn't I think you said you didn't feel worthy, but you didn't know it when you were in it at the time. So sort of very different circumstances. And, you know, I've never been in an abusive relationship, but I can relate to you saying in the moments when perhaps you weren't feeling worthy or you didn't have the confidence or whatever it was, looking back, you couldn't see it at the time. Would you agree? Or do you think that many of us kind of experience that? So I think whenever you're in, whether it's just going through life or there's a circumstance or a situation that you're going through, you don't necessarily recognize that you know you don't feel worthy or you're not good enough or you don't have the confidence.
I think that's where the external perspective comes in.
Yeah.
Very much like that counsellor that was like, I don't think this is a normal relationship. You know, it took someone else going, but you shouldn't be doing that. This shouldn't be. I mean, I'll give you an example. So I made my New Year's resolutions when I was pregnant. So I was 8 months pregnant, and my first resolution and my only resolution was to look after my mental well-being and so do something to progress it each day.
Yeah.
And my ex-husband kicked off because it wasn't about him.
Yeah.
My New Year's resolution wasn't about him. And I was like, oh no, I best change it.
And the sad thing is for him, unfortunately, what he didn't realize and couldn't see, or perhaps didn't want to see, is that you putting yourself first and looking after your own mental well-being and doing the self-care and what you actually needed for yourself actually would have meant that you would have been showing up as a completely different but better version, better able to support him, perhaps, you know, in the normal ways that you would expect that you would support him. Perhaps that wasn't the case, obviously, with him in the story that you've shared. But I think sometimes people do miss that. And I think it's like this common misconception that self-care and self-love is selfish because you are, yeah. And I think it's really important that we do try and break that, because you've clearly experienced that when you do love yourself and you do meet your needs and do what you need, you get to show up from a better place as a different person. And in my experience, you get to be more and do more for the people that you actually want. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And I know that I'm a much better mum for it as well. Just because you have that, I mean, for me, it's that Zumba class once a week. I love it. I go, I dance my heart out, and I come back and I'm like, I'm refreshed. I mean, I'm knackered, but I just feel like I've got a new perspective. I can deal with any bedtime dramas. I'm like, I've done some exercise, I've got these endorphins, loving it. But some people make you feel guilty for just that. So,
yeah. And I mean, I think it is this misconception that it is really selfish to want to better ourselves or to actually look after ourselves and love ourselves. And I think we've kind of, society has it backwards almost.
It seems like self-indulgent.
Yeah.
Like, especially when there's so much going on in the world. It's like, oh, and you're spending this time and money on developing yourself. It's like, but actually, I'll give you an example for one of my self-love clients. So she's actually had a positive impact, not on her own life, but on the life of her work colleagues. So after a couple of weeks of working together, she was due to go on annual leave, and they were like, "We're going to absolutely miss you because we miss your positivity and how you just raising us all up. And what we're going to do without you for a week." And I was like, you know, it spreads wider. It's that ripple, isn't it? You know, you smile at someone as you walk in past, they then have a better day, and it just, and it's so vital. And I would never have had the confidence to change my life and change my career to be in this coach if I hadn't been through the process.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but me as well. I've been my own client as well as working with somebody else. We've been coaching each other. Um, I think it's a completely different experience to the one that perhaps I was expecting it to be, far beyond anything I could have ever anticipated in a really good way.
Yeah.
But it's messy, isn't it? It's messy, and it's almost dirty because you're bringing the crap to the surface as you actually dig deep to. It's courageous and brave though to actually face yourself and actually be truthful with yourself about what's going on.
Yeah.
But I found that the biggest breakthroughs that I've had and the most powerful moments have been when I've been willing to be vulnerable and face it rather than squash things down or just just brush things under the surface.
Yeah. I think that's the great thing about coaching, is that you can ask those probing questions that you wouldn't normally even think about. And then suddenly you're like, oh, that's what I think. And then you don't even realize that that's what you're thinking. Then suddenly you have that light bulb moment where you're like, oh, and it all slots into place.
Yeah.
And we've been taught these fantastic methods of actually being able to overcome those and then, work towards your dream, whatever that may be.
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of you and because your mission, I know, is to help mums reconnect with themselves, to prioritize themselves, to become that better mum that they want to be. What would be your biggest tip if you could give just anybody that's watching now just one tip or one, I don't know, step, like teeny tiny step towards being that? What would it be, Claudia?
Do you know what? Mine would be start small. This is going to be very specific to the mums out there. But things like, don't rush going to the toilet for a wee. You'll try and get it, or a shower. You'll try and get it done as fast as possible. But who does that serve?
Yeah.
Because you'll be in the shower and you'll be like, oh, I can hear them crying. Okay, let's try it. Let's not wash my hair today. And then you spend the whole day going, oh, my hair feels horrible. And just, if you can just take 5 minutes, even if it's just doing some breathing exercises, or actually before bed putting on an overnight face mask. I love them. They're so time saving. You don't have to remember to wash them off until the morning. Like just those little things honestly make you feel so much better. It's really not hard, and then you can step it up.
Yeah,
it might be hard, if people first go into like, the Googling 50 ideas for self-care, and it's like, take a long bubble bath. That's a big commitment. But yeah, that probably more than one tip.
So start small though.
Small is basically.
And I think you said that's really specific to mums, which it is, and that's really good. But I think that's a really good tip in life in general. Because it's like when you start a new diet, isn't it? I don't like, you think, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to eat salads for the next however many years, I'm going to do an exercise class every single day. And then you do a couple of days and you're like, nah, I'm going back to the fish and chips and I'm just going to not do any exercise. So I think if you start small and just build in what you can, it's more sustainable over the long run than if you try and go hell for leather and do it all at once.
And if you have a day where you don't manage that 5 minutes, don't beat yourself up. It's a dieting related one, but we have a phrase at my slimming group where we call it solid Sally. So you're like, oh, I've had a pizza, I might as well go and have an entire tub of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and then the rest of the week will be off plan as well, rather than just going, okay, I had a pizza, but tomorrow I'm back on it. So don't let Sod Sally take over. Just be like, okay, that was yesterday. Today I'm going to have my 5 minutes, or maybe even 10. Who knows? And just, don't let one bad day derail you. Because I've heard it from somewhere and I can't remember where, but if you make a small change every day, by the end of that month and the end of the year, it's such a massive change than if you hadn't made a single change.
Yeah, 100%. And I always think of it as well is just try and be that tiny bit better than you were the day before. And if you can do that, you are nurturing yourself and you are inching yourself closer to whatever goal it is that you've got, whether it is a diet, whether it is to get more self-care in, and work on your mindset or self-development or read a book or whatever it is, just taking that teeny tiny step forward and thinking, how can I be that little bit better than I was yesterday? It's so powerful.
I think one thing to actually, like whatever your life, we all live busy lives, don't we? But if you set up your environment for success, if you have I don't know, say for example, you have a plan that you're going to go and do workout first thing in the morning. If
Yeah.
you actually put your workout gear by your bed, you're more likely to go and do it. Because
Yeah.
you're not having to rummage around and go, oh, I can't be bothered. I'm just going to sit and lie in bed. Or, it's just about thinking. Like, so I do a lot of driving, like nursery runs and going to work and stuff. So for me, it's all about listening to podcasts. So I love a podcast. I want a personal development podcast. So by the time we get to my destination, I'm like, right, what new tip have I got? And it's not taking me an extra time. It's time you had that you've you're sitting, or if I'm batch cooking or washing up, I'll stick a podcast on.
Oh, 100%. I've done that for like years, and that's something that I always share with people is, if you want to do any personal development or listen to stuff, build it into something you're already doing. And so I live about half an hour, maybe 40 minutes, depending on traffic, in each direction from work. So I have that good amount of time. So rather than listen to the radio, I'll put something on, and it just makes so much of a difference, doesn't it? Thinking, I'm already driving, like you say, so I might as well just do it. Then I don't have to think, right, oh, I need to make half an hour now in my day to do this. It's just like, it's so good. Yeah.
It definitely has. I think it's massively amped up my personal development, just doing that one thing. And you don't even have to listen to it all in one go. It'll pick up where you left off.
Absolutely. So obviously the series is called How She Owns It.
Yes.
So if I was to ask you, how are you owning it? How would you answer that question?
For me, it's all about living in alignment. And I absolutely, so a lot of mums will go, oh, I'm such a bad mother, I forgot, some baby wipes. I refuse to use these words. I'll just be like, I'm tired, I forgot the baby wipes. But I have lots of mum friends that I'm meeting up with. Someone will have a baby wipe, or we can go into Boots and buy some. I will not entertain it. I will not let that language in my mind, never mind out my mouth. And if any mum says that around me, or even if it's not a mum and someone who's putting themselves down, I absolutely would call them out on it. But like, no, you're not saying that about yourself.
Yeah.
And that's me living my values, because I just don't like seeing people put themselves down.
Yeah.
It's just too close to home. I'm like, no, you're amazing. Own it.
I love that. And I think as women anyway, typically, we're really good at beating ourselves up for everything that we're shit at. And often we can struggle to actually build ourselves up and give ourselves compliments, or as you say, use a more empowering language with ourselves. That we can do it to other people, build our best friends up every second of every single day. But when we're faced with doing it ourselves, it feels, I don't know if it goes back to that almost feeling a bit selfish, a bit big-headed, but I like you believe that it is bullshit, and it's it is the beliefs that we kind of cling on to, that, as you and I know, we don't have to keep. We get to transform them.
It's our choice.
Yeah, 100%. And so in terms, just one final question, because something that you said whilst you were sharing with your story, but something I think that links to what you're trying to create, and just something that you said there around, you don't let that language out of your mouth, and you have forgotten the wipes. You're going to meet other mums, somebody will have the wipes. Do you feel like it was a really like pinnacle and pivotal moment of sort of your journey when you realized that you weren't in it alone, and that you had the support and the people in place that could support you whilst you were trying to do what you ultimately wanted to do?
Yeah, 100%. I am quite lucky in the fact that I'm an older mum. So I was 35 when I had Harry. They classed me as a geriatric mother in hospital. That was not fun. But it meant I have lots of mum friends. So when I was like freaking out when Harry was 2 weeks old, going, why is my baby not in a routine? My friends were like, he's 2 weeks old. He's not going to be in a routine. Wait for a few months, maybe think about it. And I kind of had that grounding, but there are so many mums that aren't like, they just don't feel able to say, actually, this is really hard. And when you get people telling you every minute of the day, enjoy every minute, and you're like, I've been peaked on 20 times. I possibly have some in my hair. It's really hard and that because you have this, oh, enjoy every minute, and then you think, oh, there are people who can't have children, and you're like, oh, I should be grateful, and then you just bottle it up, and then you just torture yourself inside, and you feel really anxious. And that, I just don't want any mum to feel like that. And I've completely forgotten the question.
That's all right. Well, it was just more. I was just asking if you, with the story that you've shared and the journey that you've been on, and now what you're looking to create, do you feel like having that support system? And so you had the mental health team and the solicitor there. They were
my friends,
your friends, your mum friends, and now you're trying to create that environment for other mums as well. I think I was just asking, like, you obviously felt like that was a huge part of helping you to get to where you've got to.
It is, because you can message at 3 a.m. and someone will be up. Someone will answer, because inevitably another baby is up crying or needing a feed or something, and you can say, I obviously have created a group of friends that are supportive, and we're all similar, and you can say, I've had a really tough day, and they're like, okay, what do you need? Let me help you. Do you need just a vent? Do you need a cuddle? What is it? And I just think that is invaluable.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, I feel like I could chat to you for like hours, but I'm conscious we need to keep this to a reasonable amount of time for us to actually give people value. But for anybody that's watching that wants to get more of you and maybe come into your world, if they're a mom and they want to experience all of that, where can they find you? Could you share that with us?
Yes, of course. So on Insta, I'm at Claudia_Sabina_wellness. My website is www.claudiasabinawellness.com. And on Facebook, I have a group called Nurture Her. So that's NURTHE. Oh, hang on, I've gone wrong. No, it is ER.
Okay. That's fine.
On Facebook.
That's all right. Claudia's actually going to let me have all of the links, and I'm going to pop them. So if you're watching this now on Facebook, they will be above this video. If you're watching it on YouTube, they will be below. But all of the links that you've just shared, Claudia, I promise, I'll put them in the notes.
That's spelling mistakes.
Oh no. And then people can just click through, can't they, and actually
I'm like, baby brain, it's vanished, never to be seen again.
I don't think it's just a baby brain thing, because I think like many of us probably struggle with that. The heat doesn't help either.
Oh no. I'm quietly melting here.
Yeah, and I've got a cardigan on. I've got like a summer dress. I thought I better put a cardigan on just so I've got like my shoulders covered, and I'm sat here thinking I'm absolutely boiling. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I've loved our chat.
Me too.
I'm pretty sure that there will be people out there that will get huge value from this, and they will come and find you. So for anybody that is watching, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching us.
Yes.
And you can find Claudia in the links that I've just mentioned, either above or below, and I will see you on the next episode. Lots of love.
Bye.